Greetings, Mind Crafters, and welcome to another exciting Minecraft discussion, Mind with a D craft discussion today on this glorious day. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm just super pumped to have this discussion on, what does it mean to be well? And, I'd like to sort of start off right out of the gate with a quote by Sean Aker, who's the author of The Happiness Advantage, actually a book I use in my Minecraft class. But anyway, when Sean talks about, you say, what is well-being? Or I'd rather phrase or talk about it as, what does it mean to be well, right? Sean Aker says, the absence of disease is not health. I think we can get so focused on, everything going wrong. And just because we get a window of this stuff that isn't going wrong doesn't mean that we are necessarily healthy, So there, so there's a lot out there right now about wellness and well-being, and there's even some sort of micro arguments as far as whether we should have, well-being should have a dash or be dashless. There's just a lot of talk out there. And the word wellness for me brings my mind sort of straight to geriatric aqua aerobics. I kind of envision, adorable, seasoned, chatty older women who have having a glorious time in an indoor hotel pool. I picture them with kind of old school flower bathing caps and floating around, with colorful noodles, having just a grand old time. Basically, the poster for healthy aging. And well-being, though, on the other hand, versus wellness, and obviously they're very related, but well-being, on the other hand, to me, suggests that we be, in italics, well. Because, this means that while we're in this present moment state of being, which is all we have, right? We've talked about that a gazillion times. We allow ourselves, to reside in the past or future. We're not right away, we're not well. So this means while in the present moment state of being, that we do this well. And really, what's being implied here is that there's a certain level of awareness, and I would say commitment and effort. Being well is not a spectator sport for sure. So, well being, at least to me, is about feeling good in your skin, the high majority of the time. Nobody feels good 100% of the time, but feeling good in your skin most of the time. And this means, or this is about knowing who you are and knowing your value as a person. I talk a lot about this, about, mirroring your own value, mirroring the value of other people. Uh, knowing our own value is the number one, because everything else comes out of there, right? So to be well also means to live in a place of non-judgment, and take a deep breath there, with yourselves and others as much as possible, with emphasis on as much as possible, because we all get sucked in. The most self-aware of us get sucked in. And I think I have something I like to say, that, much like the vampires in Twilight, if you've seen that movie. They get really kind of crazy when they're about to take a bite, right? So I think of the vampires in Twilight when, with the judgment thing, because judgment can taste so sweet when we take that initial bite. But this, pretty soon wears off. And then we feel empty, because on some level, we know that's not cool. It hurts people, right? And, or even if it's us we're judging, we're hurting ourselves. And there is really nothing worse we can do for ourselves than abandon ourselves. So that's a real big ouch. And this is why practicing being in the moment non-judgmentally takes practice, just like anything else. And we've said over and over, for all different in all different contexts, that what we practice, we inevitably get good at, right? I mean, it's just how it is. It can be playing soccer, cooking, and it can be all the negative things too. Like say robbing banks is kind of extreme, but practice, doing whatever habit that's not good for you, then same thing. We get good at what we practice. The brain loves repetition, loves patterns, and loves repetition. So um, knowing our value also allows us to buy that new pair of jeans without feeling guilty. My memory of that, which I've talked about before, is when I was a young mother. It's definitely not a thing now because I've worked through that. But back when I was, a mom and the five kids at home, it's just, and I'm not saying be a reckless spender either, but a pair of jeans on sale for $30. I'm not saying $30 at times can't be a lot. It was just back then. It's like I could always pay the electric bill, the plumber bill. I don't know. It just seemed like day camp. And in reality, I could have gotten the pair of jeans. We certainly weren't wealthy at that time with me staying at home, but I could have made the stretch as the point, and I wasn't quite there yet. And it feels so good when you do get there, for sure. So knowing our value also allows us to splurge on an expensive glass of wine instead of going with the cheaper house wine like we usually do. I just did a I'm on the gram, Instagram now. For I'm doing stuff for Champlain, and it's also just fun, but it's all well-being related stuff. And I took a picture of this gorgeous wine rack that I've never seen one like it, honestly. Even in my travels around Europe, I mean, I've seen tons of gorgeous wine racks, some very rustic and cool looking. This one was just the tallest, biggest, widest, sparkliest. The guy needed a ladder to climb up. Some woman, she says, "Oh, I'll have that one," and it was literally at like the 14-foot mark. And so out comes the ladder, up the guy goes. Thankfully, she didn't change her mind. That could have been an all night thing, but the symmetry and everything, it was artwork in a sense. And so I took a picture of that, and the post was about this very thing, that to splurge, live a little. And I'm not saying to live, to recklessly spend, or to live on the edge or anything like that. And it doesn't have to involve money necessarily. This was just the example. And how many times, and that's not that my husband and I go out to dinner very much, actually. He's diabetic. I mostly cook at home, but occasionally we go out to dinner, and they'll come around with, like, I like Cabernet Sauvignon. I say, okay, and that's a $7 or something. Well, we have a special. It's a Bordeaux from France for 8.50. Well, why would you say no to that? It's $1.50 more. Not saying $1.50 can't be a lot at times, um, but to make that stretch and have the great wine that they're trying to run themselves out of, which is probably what they're doing, grab it. Just grab it. Live a little, because when we splurge, it kind of confirms our own sense of worthiness, that we know our value. And it doesn't mean you've arrived and you're fully there, 100% good in your skin, if that's even possible, right? It means that you're on your way, and you are knowing your value. You are getting to know your value. You're knowing your value. Yes, I will have the wine that's on special for $1.50 more. Thank you so much. And also, the whole worthiness thing, it's wrapped up in um and knowing our worth is how we accept compliments. Sometime, and I remember this was decades ago, and I remember my good friend Dr. Dave talking about it, like, look me in the eyes, let's have some eye contact. And he had me breathe. Goes way back when I was in college at St. Mike's, and just, I did something well. I don't remember what it was now. It might have been a ski race or something I don't know. But he was said, look, you did a really great job with this. Or I also did a bunch of speeches at retreats. It could have been that. And he said, "Come on, you did a great job. I want you to look me right in the eyes and breathe deeply. Let the good in, let the good feels in, let them in." And I remember at that time, it was so hard for me because you're aware of my backstory with the very turbulent, violent, shaming past. And I was very much still in it then. I was just starting my journey. And it was so I knew that it felt good, I just didn't know what to do with it, and I felt so uncomfortable because there was such a dissonance going on in my mind. Like, I wasn't used to hearing that, and it was genuine. He was trying to convey how well I had done. And gosh, I'm so grateful for him anyway. We continue to be, dear friends, since I was 18, and now he's 79. My gosh. But that was like sort of the beginning of my journey, and learning to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then, obviously, again, the practice thing again. So even now, sometimes I'll walk across, Champlain campus, and I have loads of people. Just, we're a very positive, community, and we often say, nice things to each other just all day long. And even though it's much easier now, I still can kind of hear my friend Dave in my head saying, "Stop and breathe." And again, it's easier, but I'll stop and give that person who's saying this nice thing about a presentation I did or my wild pants that I wear or something, and I'll just breathe it in. I'll breathe that person's intentions and that they're taking the time, their life minutes, to say something nice to me and appreciate me and express this compassion and this love to me, to take the time, since they're taking the time to say it, to take the time to receive it. We've talked about that with the present, somebody bringing a present over. If you don't acknowledge it, you put it on the coffee table, get to it later, you're not appreciating it. So I stand in the center of campus, opening that verbal gift and just breathing. I literally breathe deeply and let it in. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes along the well-being lifestyle, the well-being track, the Minecraft track and lifestyle, is to really let these good feels in, because the brain loves patterns and repetition. We've got to train the neurons, by telling them what to do constantly, just like a 2-year-old, over and over and over again, redirecting behavior. Eventually, the 2-year-old gets it that you're the boss. Well, it's not different with the brain, not at all. Got to keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Eventually, just look at it like with the toddler, the tantrum stops. They could be exhausted on the floor, sprawled out. They're banging the fist, and now they're maybe asleep. Okay. Well, it's kind of the same with the brain. If it's just not letting in the good feels, resisting with its fists, eventually it lets go and you're the boss. Okay, I guess you did a great job on the presentation. Okay, so far for me to be well means to feel comfortable in your skin the high majority of the time, which involves knowing your own value, feeling that sense of worthiness. And then secondly is to be able to accept compliments. And again, we're not talking about, you have both feet across the finish line. I'm not even sure that happens. But you're running the race. You're running the race and you're a work in progress. And then lastly, it's about being well has to do with being able to set boundaries respectfully, appropriately, and not feeling an ounce of guilt about it, not giving a fat rat's ass if people get upset with you. Because here's the thing, I think it's Brene Brown who says it. She does a lot of work on boundaries. Is that the only people, maybe it's Oprah, maybe it's both of them, the only people who get upset with you when you finally stop the people pleasing and set boundaries are the people who benefited from it, benefited sort of from the weakness. We're not saying weakness of character. We're saying weakness in this way of being able to set boundaries because you just weren't there yet. Not there yet. Now you're getting there. You're on your road to strength, and people respect strength. When you can say respectfully and politely, you're not saying no, unless maybe they deserve that. I don't know. But in general, just respectfully and politely. Can you bake brownies, for the PTO next month? Well, I did it last month, so maybe you might want to ask somebody else. And we're not saying it rudely, or maybe can you do whatever on Saturday night? Well, actually, and without having to come up with bullshit too. Coming up with something that the person can't say no to without being a jerk. Like, oh, I have a sick kid. If you really don't, you're making it up. Just say, you know what? Actually, I've gone full tilt this week, and I'm going to take Saturday for myself. I just want to be in the house and read and, rejuvenate. And so, no, I'm sorry, but I just can't do that right now. Or not even the I'm sorry, that part, because you don't even need to apologize. Take that back. Just no, I'm gonna have a self-care weekend, but thank you for asking. Maybe some other time. Very, very important, because here's the thing, when we know our self-worth, we can do this. We know our limits. I can do this and that and still feel good. Okay? What we don't want to do, and obviously there are those fluky big life situations. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the regular everyday, because people will continue to request your life minutes, and you got to be once we sort of know our self-worth, we get that these are limited. They're not in an endless supply, and there's nothing more valuable to us. They're our most valued commodity, if you can even say commodity, right? Our most valued commodity. Once we get that, we hopefully are becoming very selective as far as how we use these or spend these. So somebody who is being well, again, has the feeling of worthiness, knows their value, is able to set boundaries without feeling guilty, And they, because we know our limits, I can do this, and that, still feel good. But this, if I go 1 inch further, I'm going to feel drained, depleted, and that could lead me into a place of resentment. I mean, you're not telling this all to the person. I guess you could, but really, do you just know it in your head? If I, we know how we feel. If you go an inch past it, we're no good to ourselves or anybody else. So basically, this is what it means to be well. It's about a solid sense of self worth. So, what is well being? We just talked about it, and I think it's best said. We can talk about the dash or the no dash. Personally, I like the dash. I don't know, one word, it just kind of hurts my head a little bit, but it's a good word, well being, with the dash. And really, what we're talking about, remember, is how to be, kind of in mental italics, how to be is in the present moment well, how to do it well, meaning not perfect. That's a bad word. Dropping the P word in general is worse than dropping the F bomb. So, progress, not perfection. Be well to set the bar, do your best to everything we discussed. And when it comes right to it, comes right down to it, being well is about knowing our value and having that, and knowing that sense of our own original worthiness. So that is it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the drizzly and raw and contemplative Northern Vermont as we ease our way into spring. Have a mindful day.